Welcome back to the Situation Room. I'm John King in Washington. In our strategy session, the bombshell dropped on Capitol Hill 5 weeks before Election Day. Top Republicans today are blasting their former colleague Mark Foley, calling the computer messages he sent to teenage pages vile and reprehensible. But will the president's party pay a price for Foley's behavior on November 7th? Joining us now are CNN political analyst, Democratic strategist Paul Begala and Bay Buchanan, president of the American Cause. The speaker was out today. They spent the weekend trying to figure out what it is the Republican leadership should say about this. Obviously, Congressman Foley is in rehab. He's a former congressman now. But many are questioning the actions, the judgment, the behavior of the congressional leadership. Let's listen to something the speaker said at his press conference just a short time ago.
Moms and dads all across America know what a challenge it is to monitor contacts with their kids in this new world of instant communications in cyberspace. It's our challenge as well.
It's our challenge as well, the speaker says. Bay Buchanan, a member of the leadership team, came to the speaker months ago, says he told him about this questionable one email exchange, not a sexual one of nature, but a questionable email exchange in which then Congressman Foley asked a 16-year-old boy to send him a picture. That is a red flag for pedophilia and inappropriate conduct. The speaker says he doesn't dispute that Mr. Reynolds told him that, but he can't recall that conversation. What does that tell you about the speaker?
You know, I'll tell you what. I don't know who knew what when and who's remembering correctly. I know one thing. That email they call, you know, overly friendly email, that had predator stamped all over it. There's just no one in this country that can suggest otherwise. You're in a leadership position. You have a colleague that you know is at least a potential predator, and we have the pages coming through his office every day. They had an obligation that same day to investigate him further, to call in the FBI if that was an appropriate action, and also to call in those pages and to make certain every one of them was interviewed to see if there's any problems here that goes deeper than what they already knew. They failed the parents of this country is what they did.
Standing next to the speaker at this press conference was John Shimkus, who is the Republican chairman of the Page Board. It oversees the Page program. He says he went to Mark Foley, but a Democrat on the Page Board, Dale Kildee, who's not known as a flaming partisan like Paul Begala, and even a Republican on the Page Board, Shelley Caputo from West Virginia, says, whoa, nobody told me about this. What does that tell you?
They covered it up. You know, and this is not a partisan thing. This is what happens when you're in power for too long. You know, Lord Acton was right. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. It was a moment of crisis. It was a moment of conscience. It was a moment that shows character. And Dennis Hastert showed himself to be a man unfit for high office. So did anyone else who knew about this and did nothing. I think Bay's right. Most normal people, even political people, react to this like moms and dads. I'm a dad. Somebody sends an email like that to my kid, they're going to deal with the law firm of Smith & Wesson. Okay? It ain't going to go to no Page court. It's going to go to my 12 gauge. And the fact that somehow the speaker has just been so corrupted by power, he's not an evil man, but he's been too powerful for too long, he can't even see beyond his partisan interest.
I want to read, before you go on, I want to read something that Dennis Hastert said on October 8th, 1998. At the time, the House was preparing to impeach the president that Paul Begala worked for. And Dennis Hastert said this: in these times, we need leadership that people can trust if our democracy is to work. Confidence in government is built upon trust. Babe, should any parent in the United States of America have trust in this leadership? And to be fair, they did not know of any sexually explicit messages. But some of them did know that a Republican congressman in his 50s asked a 16-year-old boy to send him a picture.
John, that was all they needed to know. I mean, I'll repeat myself. This is a known homosexual who's writing emails to the home of a 16-year-old boy asking for pictures. That's all you need to know. It's done. That is enough to demand that anyone who knew that, who had authority, to make certain they shook things up enough so that they would make certain the pages understood that we want to know what's going on. We need an investigation. Bring in the FBI. Stop this guy. Make certain that if indeed he was the predator he could be, he was stopped that day. They failed that. You cannot spin this. And I don't know that I would call it a cover-up. I think you hear from the congressman who talked to Foley, I believe my congressman. He wanted to believe him. He wanted, Paul is correct. They are so removed from the real world. You know, as parents, we say, no, we don't want to believe anybody who's sending these kind of things. We want to protect the children. We are going to, they sent a message to the pages, fend for yourself, young people. Fend for yourself.
They had to make a judgment that day about what to do. Or several days, they had to make judgments of what to do. Their judgment was go to Mark Foley and say, don't do it again.
Exactly.
Not get a lawyer, not get a Democrat. The thing that strikes me is there's no evidence that they said, Mark, we believe you, but you better see a counselor. You better do something. They didn't do anything like that.
They should have beat the living daylights out of the guys, what they should have done, and said, you're going to inch your life, and the next time you're not going to be that lucky.
I'm with Bay on this. And what's stunning is the White House response to this? This is a story that has nothing to do with the White House, right? I mean, and they generally have better sense in this. Tony Snow dives into today, the president's spokesman, who's otherwise a delightful guy, but not thinking like a dad, not even thinking like a human being. He comes on our air, Soledad O'Brien this morning interviewed him on American Morning, and he describes this as naughty emails, sort of par for the course for Capitol Hill, he says. What? What could be more callous, arrogant, or removed from people's lives? The fact that the White House doesn't even acknowledge that this is a monstrous crisis, a child predator.
Let me start with one second. Let's listen to that exchange. Let's listen to that exchange. First with Soledad this morning, and then Tony Snow tries to correct himself at the White House briefing. Let's listen.
There have been other scandals, as you know, that have been more than simply naughty emails. You're right. That may sound a little bit too glib. I think I've already said, I've used the words horrifying, appalling, disturbing, fill in the blanks. It's absolutely inappropriate.
We're standing here on live television. We all do live television. We say things we regret on live television. Should we cut Tony Snow some slack, or is that reprehensible?
He made a mistake. He corrected it. I think that's a non-story, to be quite honest. I think the real story here is we have to make certain now. I think the Republicans have done all the right thing, called in all the proper investigations. But this investigation should not be just about Foley. They should get into the pages, talk to every one of them, see if we have any more predators in the halls of Congress, whether they be staffers or members. And let's clean them all out now, because this is just inexcusable that we have leadership that actually thinks that and believes the predator. Oh, I didn't mean anything. We knew what he meant.
Why did they? To quote Bob Woodward, it's going to be on Larry King tonight in the Watergate scandal, follow the money. One of the House leadership members who knew about this reportedly was Tom Reynolds. He's the head of the Republican campaign committee. He knew that Foley at least was exchanging inappropriate emails with a young boy. He did nothing. Except he passed on to Hastert, he says. I shouldn't say nothing. But he didn't call the FBI. He didn't call in investigators. After that exchange, after he became aware of that, Congressman Foley's PAC gives Reynolds and the Republican Congressional Campaign Committee over $100,000 in campaign donations. So, you follow the money. You wonder why they were
To be fair, all members of the leadership, and Mark Foley was a member of the leadership, they are urged, especially if you don't have a close race, which he didn't have, to raise as much money as you can and give it to the committee to help other people.
You take $100,000 from a guy who you think is a sexual predator, and then you don't report him to the cops. That's, We only have about a minute left. This is from Representative Peter King of New York. He says this. It's on the abcnews.com website. We should be rushing to get all the facts out. Certainly anyone in the Republican leadership, any member of the Congress who knew anything about this should tell exactly what they knew and when they knew it. We're going to have 5 weeks left in the congressional election. I assume that this is one of those things. People often don't get what happens here in Washington. They think we're crazy. They think we speak a different language. They think the Congress and people in my business are off on wacky tangents that have nothing to do with their lives. You think this is the issue now for 5 weeks? Who should be in charge? This matters a lot. And I have no idea, honestly. I haven't talked to any of the Democrats in leadership today. If the Democrats take back the House, they ought not let this slide. They ought to swear out every single one of these guys under oath, figure out what they knew, when they knew it, and what they did about it. This is about children. If the Democrats are part of it, fine. There's no evidence that there is. There's no suggestion that there is. But Bay's right. They have to clean house. And that's what I mean when I say it's become corrupt in the Lord Acton sense. There's just too much power in too few hands for too long.
This is the most serious issue that the Republicans face because we can have a debate about Iraq and immigration and they're not sure here and there. It's not all real clear. But one thing they know, they expect the people in their community and the people in Washington to do whatever they can to protect children under all costs. You don't even think twice. This is an immediate and instinctive reaction to protect young people. They failed in the most important responsibility. Their priorities must be so screwed up that they wouldn't react immediately on something like this. And I think that's how the American people are going to react. This is not the kind of people that we expect to have as our leaders.
We need to end it here for today. I suspect we'll be talking about this for the next 5 weeks and beyond. Paul Begala and Bay Buchanan, two thoughtful parents, also part of the best political team on television. And we want to know what you think about the Foley scandal and the possible political fallout. Will allegations that the former Republican congressman exchanged sexually explicit instant messages